Welcome to A Woman's Clarity, a podcast that empowers financial professionals to better connect with and serve their female clients. Listen in as host Kirsten Schlumbohm, Vice President of Annuity Sales at C2P, and her guests help you speak the language of women clients and meet their unique financial needs and goals.
Welcome to A Woman's Clarity. I'm Kirsten Schlumbohm, host of A Woman's Clarity. We have a lot of fabulous women here at C2P, and I'm honored to have one of our top advisors here at C2P, Julie Manning, to be on with us today to really talk about being your own advocate in financial services. So, Julie, welcome to A Woman's Clarity.
Thank you, Kirsten. I'm really glad to be here. Appreciate the invite.
Well, like I said, I'm excited. We have such great talks when it's you and I at our meetings, and I'm happy and excited to share your story because I think it's really impactful. So as we start, can you share with us your journey into financial services and founding Keystone Wealth Management?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Like most people, I never intended on being in this position. I was a complete accidental tourist to financial services. Little background. In my early 20s, I ended up in the insurance industry only because I couldn't feed my kids. I have a real paying potential job. So I started off in insurance, and I really loved it because it was a way that I could help people when they needed it the most. So I started off in voluntary benefits and mostly in the disability world. So people weren't getting paychecks and they were desperate. So when I would help somebody, I'd usually file claims for them. I'd hand deliver the claims. I'm aging myself a little bit because that's when you could do that. They don't let you do that anymore. And I had a good 20-year run of it. I had a really great career. And what I found was that I got a lot of joy out of helping people any which way I could. But in 2008-ish, Obamacare was coming down the pike. The insurance industry was changing drastically, and I knew that I needed to pivot and make a second go of it, if you will. I ended up at one of the big box insurance companies. I didn't love it. Very quota-driven, very salesy, and I thought, I didn't feel like I was helping people. I felt like I was just selling products. So put a kibosh on that. And then actually when I was there, I got a phone call one day. Somebody was recruiting me for a local advisor, and they said, hey, they need a female advisor. So I took that job. And it was a good 5 years. I learned a lot about securities, about planning, all that kind of stuff. But probably about 3 years into it, I'm like, I am so used to being self-employed and beating to my own drum. And so I knew I had to get out. And so I spent about 5 years there. And then I said, I can do this better. I can do it with more care, with more love for the clients, with more time with the clients. And I can build my practice to where I can give them as much time as they need. And I can still benefit from it too. So that's when I found Keystone Wealth Management about 5.5 years ago. And we are at 70 high net worth clients, which is perfect. So I went from a 20-year-old to a something-year-old and love what I do. Absolutely love what I do.
Well, first off, their loss, our gain here at C2P. Like I said, you're one of our top advisors, and we absolutely love having you a part of the C2P family. But you're an accidental tourist, like a lot of us. What did you go to school for if it wasn't financial service? What did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
So I was such a jock as a young girl. I thought, well, I'm going to teach PE because I can teach them how to play basketball and softball and all that kind of stuff. And so I actually have a degree in physical education. Back when I was going to school, they didn't have a lot of internships and whatnot for you like to go into a school and see if you really loved it. So it was right after I graduated, and I took a 6-week short-term sub in 6th grade PE. The worst 6 weeks of my life. And so I knew that was not going to be my calling. I worked in the fitness industry for a while and did some health club management and whatnot. But I knew that I had at that time, I'd just been married. By the time I figured out that I needed a real job, I had 3 kids. and one on the way. So my teaching went by the wayside. I do get to take it out on my adult learners that come to Social Security class and Medicare class, though. And I tell them, I'm taking it all out on you guys.
Well, with your educational background, Julie, and you're in financial services, how do you use both talents? Because to be a teacher and have that background is talent, and being in this industry, it's definitely talent to be a top advisor. How do you leverage those two skill sets to advocate and lead advancements for women in financial services?
So one of the things that I've learned over my time in this industry, especially working with women, their needs are completely different than what men are. And women have historically punted all of the financial decisions to their male counterparts, whether it's dad, uncle, brother, husband. Shoot, I've worked with some ladies that were even having their sons take care of their stuff. So my job as an advisor for females is to educate them, whether they're divorced, widowed, never been married. They all kind of want to know, but they're afraid to ask because they don't know. And so I spend a lot of time educating my female clients. I'll give you a quick example. I had a lady, this was years ago, and she kept asking me, I was talking about a mutual fund. She's like, well, what is a mutual fund? And I thought, well, I could go deep on her and give her like all the information about how it's built and all that. Or I could say something like, look, I'm going to give you an analogy. This will help you understand the components. When you go in the kitchen, let's say you're going to bake chocolate chip cookies. You're going to need flour, vanilla, chocolate chips, a little baking soda. You're going to need eggs and some butter. And when you mix all those up and you bake them and they come out of the oven, they're like amazing, right? But if you miss putting in the chocolate chips, it won't taste the same. Or if you don't put in the vanilla, it's not going to be very good. It's the same with a mutual fund. A mutual fund has got a big basket of different kinds of investments. And when you put them all together, they have a good outcome. In other words, they're balanced and they, like your cookie tastes good. They perform the way that you would hope that they would. So I love to try to teach them new things. And I don't need them to be experts. I don't need them to be able to do a deep dive into calls and puts and things like that in the investment world. But I do need them to understand enough so that they're comfortable with how their plan is put together.
And your clients, when using that analogy, like with baking cookies, they really have like grasped that concept and they feel more empowered to make the decisions.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to insult them, but I'm trying to get them to think a little bit differently about the components on the financial world versus what may be something that they're very familiar with. They could probably do with their eyes closed. They could rattle off how much they put in the batter for the cookies. So it's just a matter of kind of retraining their brain to just think a little bit differently than what they have.
But I like that. I really like that because let's say you want to make chocolate chip cookies, but you accidentally grab the raisins and don't pay attention. You now have an oatmeal cookie or a cookie with raisins and you bite into it and you're not satisfied. Right. So I love that you're using that because in my own brain, I was like, that's really awesome. And a clean way to explain it to be relatable and understandable for female clients. I absolutely love that.
I've got a whole bunch of them, but anyways, that's just perfect.
If it's all about food, you might not get off this podcast. But since you've been in the industry for just a few days, not very long, as you said, 20 years, success has a different meaning to everyone, especially in this industry. How would you define your success, or how do you define success?
Well, when I started in insurance, one of the things that I observed was that people that were very successful were on the top of their leaderboards. We used to get paper in the mail, paper bulletins every week, and you could see where people were. And so I would pick somebody, usually a female that was doing well, and I'd say, okay, I'm going to be fill in the blank, Kathy, this year. And so I would just stalk her on that weekly bulletin to make sure that I was keeping up with the pace. Fast forward 20 plus years, it's changed a little bit. I've got a big office. I've got employees now and having the fiduciary responsibility of being the owner of this company and all those components. So, success now don't get me wrong, I still like to look at the leaderboard and see if I'm on it. It's multifaceted now. It's not just, hey, I'm going to beat somebody, because that's not going to cut it. There's a lot of planning and a lot of forecasting. And one of the things that C2P is really great at is providing us tools to be able to come in here and say, okay, here's where I am today. I want to grow 20% year over year. What's it going to take? How many people? What's the net worth, et cetera? And so the tools have been very helpful in getting me to where I am now.
That's awesome. And we help from like soup to nuts when it comes to our advisors having growth, and then have also a successful career path for their team members so that they also grow in the industry. So it's pretty amazing that you've done a lot in a short amount of time with us, not just with your production, being a top advisor, but leveraging the tools and the resources that C2P provides. So I love that. But I know that you do look at the leaderboards, because we were all together in Pittsburgh. We had the ladies breakfast and everyone was like, you're on the leaderboard, I'm following you. And you all had this great spirit of empowering, but looking at where you could be next month or at the end of the year. So it's pretty awesome. So with being successful, and it's busy, because I myself, there are days I start very early and I work really late. And it's difficult sometimes to separate life, work, and have balance. What do you do in your daily practice so that you stay centered, focused, and on your path to success?
So one of the things that I'm very cognitive of, I could work 80 hours a week and I still feel like I didn't get it all done. So balancing out the work life and the home life is really important for me at this point. All my kids are grown. They're having babies of their own. So I'm an empty nester. My husband's already retired. And so really focusing now on making the most of our life while we can, doing the things that we want to do while we can. And I harp on my clients all the time about, where's your bucket list? Like, come on, what are we doing? And so it's important for me to follow that same advice, so I'm not burnt out and frustrated and all those things. So limiting my time at the office is important. I do have support staff now, which has been amazing, because I can walk away and know that the little things aren't going to start to fall apart. So the other thing is I try not to beat myself up about anything when it comes to work. There's always a solution for something. If I have one quarter that's not so great, there's 3 more. There's always time. So I try not to, again, beat myself up and say, you could do better all the time. I'm hard enough on myself because I know I have a lot of obligations, but I got to balance it out. The other way I do that is I have been part of the Rotary Club in my town for quite a while, probably about 6 years now. And so giving back and making sure, like this week, this is a weekly meeting, so we're ingrained in Rotary stuff, has also been helpful to keep me centered, to keep me grounded, to diversify myself away from work sometime. So
I really like your approach. It sounds like you've got a great system for your own time management. You're giving yourself grace, because I'm like you. If I don't get things done or something's not, for lack of a better word, perfect, and we know life isn't perfect, but giving yourself grace is such an important skill set that we don't typically give ourselves. We'll give it to everybody else, but not ourselves. So I love that you're applying grace to your own life. But community involvement is so important, especially in a relationship business. This business isn't transactional. We are in a relationship business. So I love that you're giving back to your community, and it fills your own bucket, but it's also helping you help others in what you do. Do you have any secrets to your time management that you would share when you're setting those boundaries for, this is my work time, lifetime?
Yeah. So I just made a deal with my husband that on Fridays I'd be out of the office by 3. And he responded with, fantastic. And we'll go on a date every Friday night. So something little like that, those commitments are huge in terms of, so now I don't have to, I know that I have some time to enjoy. Because again, I could be here for 80 plus hours. I could take it home and work all night if I wanted to, but I don't. It doesn't make for a good Monday through Friday kind of feel. So yes, making sure I do that. I try to spend as much time with my 2 grandsons. They just fill my heart. They're just sweet and young, and I love to spend time with them. I've got a horse that I ride, and so I like to do that. Make sure I've carved out some time for that. And then personal time, workouts, walks, reading. I'm reading a cool book right now that a client gave me. It's called Die with Zero. It's all about making sure you have those experiences that you wanted to have and not worrying so much about the money, but worry about the experiences because life's short.
It's like your client is actually giving you permission, giving them that book gives you permission to live your life and spend your money and have the life that you've saved so hard to work. You've worked so hard for and make those memories. I mean, you can only make so much memories with your grandkids when they're toddlers and they grow up so fast. And I love the date night with the husband. Now, do you guys have a rule? If you break your promise, do you have to like give them $100 or you got to do a cartwheel?
Cartwheel, no. That would hurt. I'm pretty much sure it would. No, we haven't talked about that. I'll get back to you on that one.
Well, Jeff and I, we always go for a walk after work and then we listen to a song together. So I'm glad no one can see us, but we just dance after work. So it's just, we both work from home. So I think having that balance and having that set process for your family and your life is so important. I'm going to move on to like the next generation because eventually, Julie, you're probably going to retire and do more things that you enjoy, even though you love your clients and you love what you do. What strategies do you feel are essential for empowering the next generation of women in financial services? And how can financial offices like yourself play a role?
Yeah, it's so important. Women really need to be able to connect with other women in this industry. I've been in so many meetings previous to opening Keystone Wealth Management where a male advisor was talking to a couple and wouldn't even look at the wife, like wouldn't even engage the wife. And I'm thinking, if you don't talk to her pretty soon, they're not coming back. And so women helping women becomes even more important because one of the things that we do know is that when the husband in the relationship passes away, there's a very high percentage that surviving widow will leave that advisor because they're not being engaged. And that's just a shame. I make a point of making sure that I look at her even more than I look at him, because usually she's the one that's going to be the ultimate driver on that decision. So making sure that women are comfortable, that is one of the huge benefits of getting women into the industry. There's a couple of things that you and I can do, Kirsten, that men can't. I can get up and go hug a widow who is bawling her eyes out on the other side of the table, and I can hug her up for as long as she needs me to. And it's not weird. I can reach across the table and hold her hand while she's making a tough decision, and it's not weird. And so I would say that women need to take advantage of the insanely high dose of empathy that we have and use it. Women want to be taken care of when it comes to finances. They want to learn. And if they can learn from another woman, I feel like that is just tenfold benefit for them. Great for me. But if it benefits them, then we all win. So communicating with them is key. Educate them is key. Listening to them. Oh my God, I can't say how awful it is when you don't listen to them. And then all of a sudden you get a really great relationship. You've helped this lady get through a really tough time, or maybe not, maybe she didn't have a tough time, but either way, you've helped somebody learn, grow, and become a really good client for life if you can do those things for women. When I got into business, I literally was the only woman in the office that was in an advisory position. And I'd never known another woman that was an advisor. So for me, it was just like, just learning as I went. And it is a little bit of an ego-driven industry. I'm just going to put that out there, but you can't let that get in the way. Don't get scared off. It's hard work. It's rewarding work, but don't let any of that stop you from getting into the business and try it. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. But at least you did try, and at least you learned something new, and at least you've had that experience.
It hits me when you talk about how women work with women, how empathy and communication are so important. And it's true. You can hug a female client when they're going through something and hold their hand through it. And it's amazing. It's powerful because they know that you're not telling them, you're in it with them, and you're showing them the way and helping them get to the end point where they're going to be comfortable, confident in whatever decisions that they're going to make. I love that, Julie. And I can see how you do well with your clients doing that. And it's a special skill set. And I know that you also, when you're with your clients and it's a couple, you're equally engaging. You're engaging with the woman so she knows that her priorities are just as important as his. And you're right. Sometimes if you're not paying attention to the woman and they walk out of the office, you're not going to get the sale because she is the quiet decision maker. And I think you've probably seen it in appointments that you've been in the past.
I have. Absolutely.
And I do want to encourage women to look at financial services as a career because maybe somebody says, you know what, I couldn't do what Julie does. I don't know if I could be the decision maker, but the cool thing about financial services is there's many different roles we can take. You can be front stage in front of the client. You can be backstage helping with the paperwork. And maybe at 27 years old, you don't feel like you could be the advisor sitting in Julie's chair. You start as a client service rep. And 6 years later, you're like, I'm ready for that move because Julie has empowered me to make these decisions. So I think it's pretty awesome. You have a really good team to do that with too.
I do. So I hired my daughter, this was about 3 years ago, my oldest daughter, to do exactly that. I needed administrative help. Like most advisors, I don't like paperwork. I don't want to fix the form that's not correct. I have my own lane that I like to stay in. But Allie, when I hired her, I said, look, you're going to learn from the bottom up. And as you progress, like you could be another one of me, which would be great because she's noticing and she's observing how I work. She's in the meeting, she's taking notes. Sometimes she'll come out and she's like, Mom, you killed that. Like you just made that so easy for them to. So she understands and she appreciates the value of being a female advisor. So it's a great career path. You don't have to start off as an advisor. Matter of fact, I would recommend that you didn't. Don't go from this to, I'm going to start to advise people at, to your point, at 27 years old, they're going to laugh at you. When they come in and they're like 68, 69, they're like, how old are you? You may have the knowledge, but you don't have the experience. And that's part of the beauty of being kind of where I am, is that I've got lots of life experience. I've got all the financial knowledge and I can build a good relationship with a client and do good things for them.
I love that. And the nice thing about financial services too is there's flexibility. Like when you started out as an advisor, you had no cap on your ceiling. You were raising children. You needed a steady income. And so you could do that. But you also had flexibility that if your child had a baseball game, softball game, soccer game, you could say, I'm not going to have appointments at this time, and I'm going to go be there for my family. So that's a really awesome part about financial services is the flexibility and control of your own future. And I think we overlook that as well.
Well, that's one of the reasons I decided I wanted to be a school teacher. I figured at some point I'd get married, and I did. And I thought, well, I could be home with the babies during the summer. But where I started off in insurance and where I am now is way better because I can go anywhere I want. I can bring my computer if I'm going to be in Michigan or Maine or wherever I want to go. I can still work from there and controlling my own schedule now. And well, I've always done that, but doing it now is even more important. Again, kind of based on where I am in terms of my life, longevity of my life and all those kind of things. I like the flexibility.
I think it's a wonderful aspect of this industry. And of course, most importantly, date night on Friday, you've got to make sure you make that.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we're wrapping up our time together, we're still, as women, growing our footprint in this industry. I think we're still around 20 to 21% of women in financial services. So what advice would you give fellow women who are contemplating getting into financial services?
Well, the first thing is don't be afraid of it. I have a degree in PE, but here I am because it's not always just about the numbers. It's about the relationships that you can build and how you can help people. And I think that's where people get a little bit lost. They're like, well, I can't do this. I can't do complex math in my head. You don't have to do that. You have to care about people. You have to be able to navigate planning and navigate the investment side. You're going to have a securities license. But those are all just small little obstacles that you just need to get by. Most people don't pass the Series 65 or the CFP in their first try. No big deal. Neither did I. So you just keep trying. And if you like it, then to your point, there's so many different ways that you can be in financial services. I think if women can get an internship in somebody's office, like say an office like mine, that's a small family office where people actually communicate and talk together. It's a good first look and first feel into the industry without being really overwhelming. If you're going to go into one of the big box companies right out of college, girl, it's a tough way to do it. It's a really tough way to do it. So I think internships, supporting women-driven kind of financial services events where people can come and explore, ask questions, more in a kind of a career fair. And then just knowing that it's a really rewarding industry. Again, you can have it all. You can have the family, you can have your work, you can have the income. So many possibilities are here for women in financial services. You need to have the support of your family. Like if you're married and you come home one day and say, I'm going to quit my good paying job and I want to do something that's no guarantees, you better have a good plan to do it, because when your spouse does not support it, it's almost impossible. So make sure you have some good communication there.
And support. That is very true. I guess the one question that I thought of as you were talking about helping other women get empowered in this industry, if there's one thing that you could tell yourself, if you could go back 20 years when you were getting into this industry, is there anything that you would have told your past self today from what you learned without changing your course?
I would say that I would tell myself to try harder in the beginning. I tried pretty hard, but had little babies. Try harder. Don't get down on yourself. I did a lot of that when I was younger. Now you couldn't hurt my feelings. So don't get down on yourself. And see the long game. Like see the 5-year, the 10-year, the 15-year result of being in the industry. You are not going to get rich overnight. I can guarantee you that. It is not that kind of game. But you can build wealth. You can build it for future, for yourself, for your family. But you got to be willing to put in the bats, right? And take some of the strawberries when you slide into home, and when you're still out, it's all good. But you gotta keep that in mind, that it's not a get rich quick scheme at all.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because a lot of people think that about the financial services industry. It's a relationship building opportunity to help people slide into home plate for retirement and avoid those strawberries. So thank you so much for sharing. I feel like I could always talk to you for hours. I find you truly inspiring. And thank you for what you do for women in the industry and what you do for C2P.
Well, you're welcome. I love being here. It's a great organization. If you are thinking about getting into financial services, they are top notch all the way around.
I'm not to toot our own horn, but we are best in class for processes and helping advisors do good and help their clients. So again, Julie, thank you so much for being on. And for those of you listening, reach out if you're thinking about getting into financial services. Let's have a conversation. And for those of you listening, whatever you do today, make it a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to A Woman's Clarity, brought to you by C2P, an organization whose purpose is to educate, train, grow, and support holistic financial advisors so families can achieve true prosperity. Subscribe now and never miss an opportunity to learn how to become a more proactive, holistic advisor to the fast-growing female client base. Visit c2penterprises.com to learn how we can help support and enhance your business. At the time of delivery and any subsequent publishing, information was deemed reliable but is subject to change by the time of listening or viewing. The contents of this piece include options and projections of C2P, are subject to change, and are for informational purposes only. The information provided in this presentation is not intended to be individual investment, tax, or legal advice.